Today we are going to discuss about the environment analysis as the first step in curriculum development. You remember last week we briefly addressed this topic, the first one, that is the environment analysis. If you remember, what do we really do in the environment analysis? What do we really, what factors do we really look at in environment analysis? Anyone who remembers what we discussed last week briefly? Okay, we will go over anyway once again. So in this discussion, we would like to address one of the most important steps in curriculum development, the situational factors that will affect our course or our curriculum. The situation and the constraint that we have in each of the situation. Last week, we mentioned about the three factors that we have to consider. That's the learners, teachers, and situation. Okay. And then we also discuss about what we really need to look at the learners. Okay. I just want to mention once again that these three factors are important that will affect our curriculum or our course. Now let's see first of all the first factor, okay, the learners. What we discussed last week is about the learners. For example, the age. If you are dealing with the junior secondary school, maybe age is not a big constraint because they are relatively the same age, probably 13, 14, or 12 years. So they are relatively at the same age. But then when you look at the next one, what we discussed last week, is about the capability in English. So maybe one learner is very, widely different from the others because they have different English proficiency before they come to junior secondary school. So now, what I would like you to do is, right now, if you have your book, I want you to take a look at the table 2.1. Okay, you are going to have an exercise or an assignment to do the analysis practice based on the table 2.1. So let's see this example. When you have the constraint on the learners, for example, there would be a drop in the learner's interest in learning English as they identified more strongly with their language one, their mother tongue. For example, you expect that the learners might drop their interest and motivation because they find in the first class English is very difficult, and then they finally become uninterested in learning English. So how this will affect the curriculum, the subject that you are teaching. Okay, so you have to be able to identify the constraints, what will happen to the learners. And then when take a look at the example number 3, the learners knew that they could communicate more easily with each other in Japanese than in English. In our situation, we'll say that the learners may communicate much more easily in Bahasa Indonesia or in their mother tongue, their local language, than in English. So how would you translate this into your curriculum when they are likely to use their Indonesian or their vernacular, their local language, than English when they communicate, even in the classroom? Okay. And then another constraint, probably what we mentioned last week, there was a range of levels of proficiency. So one learner might be very proficient, while the others are not really proficient, not at all. So this difference will affect the curriculum once again. And if you identify some other example as a constraint, like the learners have been learning English in much the same way as native speakers acquire their first language. If you believe that English may be acquired the same way as the children of the English-speaking community acquire their first language, English as their first language, and then how would you translate this into your curriculum, in your course? So this kind of constraint might affect the curriculum design. Okay. Take a look at the right-hand side of the slide. Then, if take a look at constraint number 4, the students are likely to use their mother tongue or their native language, then maybe what you have to include in the curriculum is the activities that you design. The activities should be largely teacher-centered rather than pair work. Why? Because they are still using their native tongue, their mother tongue. So maybe you design the activity based on this constraint, saying that probably the activities might be mostly or largely teacher-centered. Okay, so this constraint will have impact on the curriculum. So the first one would be addressed using this kind of solution. Okay, so far, if you have any questions about how we address the constraint that we identify in our analysis of the situation or the environment. This is in terms of learners. Okay. This is an example from a Japanese curriculum developer, and they try to identify the constraint in terms of learners. And then the impact of the curriculum design are presented in this way. And then what kind of activities that might address this kind of constraint? Okay. So there are a lot of activities. These are actually the impact is like this, but then what kind of activities, like the activities should be fun. If they have a lot of drop in their motivation, their interest in learning English, then should be should be designing a lot of activities which is fun. So for example, reading comics, that might be fun. Okay. Or probably reading at home and reporting to the class. They are given short one paragraph story, and then they may read one or two little books, and then they report what they have read in class. Okay. So the activities that you design should also address these constraints. Okay. When you decide that this constraint may have impact on the curriculum, then what kind of activities that might help you to deal with the constraint. Okay, here is the one that you will work on. the table 2.1. So you can refer to the book again later when you do the assignment. So please write down your assignment for this, okay? So everyone will work on this after this session is completed, and then your work will be uploaded in the Google Classroom later on today, or probably if you can work immediately and quickly, you can submit it during the part of this session, the second part of the session. Okay, take a look at each of these. You will try to look at the learners, and then we have to consider about which level of school that you are going to deal with. So take, for example, the senior secondary school. So we assume that you're dealing with the learners of senior secondary school. If you want to deal with another group of learners, for example, adult learners in the private courses, in the, what is the kursus, you may also consider that. But then you can also consider what I have told you just now, that we are dealing with senior secondary school, or you may choose one group of learners other than senior secondary school learners. Yeah, for example, the adult learners, or probably younger learner, but they are in the private courses. Young children, for example, but they are in the private course. Now you are going to develop the curriculum for them, and then you try to first analyze this. Okay. Okay. There are 4 areas in the learners that you have to consider. The first one is the age. The second one is their ability, what they already know. And then the third one, why do they need English? Okay. And the fourth one is, do they have preferred ways of learning? So consider this 4 aspects of the learners, and then find out the constraint in each. In terms of age, for example, are the learners interested in all kind of topics? When they are younger learners, what kind of topics might be interesting for them? Or are all topics, or probably specific topics? When they are senior secondary school students, then what kind of topics they are interested in? Can the learners do all kinds of learning activities, okay, based on the age? Okay, so if yes, how are you going to deal with it? If no, then how are you going to deal with that, the difference, ability of doing activities based on the age? And then try to consider, what do they know? This one, do they share a first language, and they are speaking Indonesian? Or probably if you are in the rural areas, in the kabupaten, then maybe they do not share the same first language. Including in Makassar, they probably have different first language or local language. Can their first language be used to help learning? Okay, so consider this. What previous learning have they done? So if they are in the senior secondary school, they have learned English in the SMP and probably in elementary school, and then consider that, what do they really already know? So this is in terms of what do they know, their ability or proficiency in English. And then, do they need English for a special purpose? If you are dealing with the private course, the adult, probably they have specific purpose. They attend the course. If it is in senior secondary school, probably it is not necessarily a special purpose, except in the vocational school. If they are in the tourism vocational school, they may need the what is the English in tourism. If they are in the engineering or technical school, then they may have special purpose in learning English. That is the engineering English or the technical schools. If they are in the computer science vocational school, then probably they have specific purpose in that area. Okay, and the first aspect of the learners is they prefer ways of learning. Are they interested in learning English, and how much are they interested in learning English? Or probably they are not really motivated to learn English. Do they have to learn English? Can they attend class regularly? Or probably other kind of learning preferences is about the way that they can learn effectively. Are they learning something visually better than auditorily? Or do they want to learn something by walking or moving around? Yeah, probably they are kinesthetic. Yeah. Or you may also consider about the multiple intelligence. If you have heard about the multiple intelligence, are they dominantly linguistic? Are they dominantly musical, and so forth? So that might be considered in order that you can provide a better and more effective curriculum. So these are in terms of learners. And then the second one in terms of teachers. Okay, you will consider about their competence, and then you'll see, are they trained? So who are going to use the course? Who is going to deliver this material as you have developed the curriculum? So can they prepare some of their own material, or should they be prepared by others? Can they handle group work or individualized learning, and so forth? So the training that they have attended might affect their competence to deal with this type of constraint. Are they confident in their use of English, their English proficiency, or let's say their professional competence, their ability to manipulate the language, and the ability to deal with different kind of ways to deliver the English in their classes? Do they have time for preparation and marking? Yeah, sometimes they do not have much time to prepare and also to mark the students' assignment. And how are you going to deal with that? Can the course include homework? If there is very little time for the teachers to mark the homework, maybe homework will be limited. If the teacher has a lot of time, then maybe homework be included more. And then can the course include work which has to be marked? Yeah, once again, depending on the time available for the teacher, then you may include a lot of out of classroom work for the students, and then the teachers have time available to to examine, to evaluate the work. And then the last one is the situation. Is there a suitable classroom? Okay, this will include the facilities in the classroom. Just consider that, and how are you going to deal with the any constraint in terms of suitability of classroom? is there enough time? How much time do they have to meet in classroom every week, for example? Now you consider that, and then if there is a constraint, and then you have to adjust the content of your material, how much content should be included based on the time available for the class meetings. Are there enough resources, yeah, including the textbook, workbook, and any additional or supplementary materials that they may have in order that the teaching and learning process can run well? Is it worth developing the course? This is what is the important question. You may spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, but then maybe it is not worth doing that kind of activities as a course developer, while the course is not used by the intended target. So it is important. Okay, so these are actually the one that you are going to deal with. If you have any questions before we, before you are doing your, what is your assignment? So once again, what you are going to do is you will deal with this. Try to analyze the three factors of the environment: the learners, the teacher, and the situation, and identify the constraint. So about the learners, you have to ask at least three of them, or maybe if you consider that there are only two important factors in learners, you are not going to deal with the age, for example, because they are the same age, and then you just ignore how old are they, for example. So you choose the second one, the third one, and the fourth one, or maybe you want to choose only two. That's okay, but at least you choose two in each of these factors. Choose two at least from the learners, two from the teachers, and two from the situation, and then try to identify what might be the most important constraint that you have to consider in that factors. So in terms of learners, if you are consider what do they really know, and then you may want to examine the constraint in terms of their ability. It is not necessarily the same as the one here, but then when you choose the same, and then you have to be able to provide the effect of the curriculum and the activities. So you have to add once again, designing the activities. So while you are identifying the specific constraints in this factor, and then you think about the effect on the curriculum, and then what kind of activities that you may design to address the constraint that you have identified. So there are 4 aspects that you have to write down. Do you have any comments on this? Do you think you are able to do that? You'll have the enough time to do it after this session. Everyone will work on their own, on your own, and then you will look at your Google Classroom, and then you upload there about this assignment. You'll have sufficient time. You'll be assigned to upload your work later today. Maybe the deadline would be today in the afternoon. You can write in Bahasa Indonesia if you like. It doesn't matter, as long as you do as it is assigned to. Any questions or comments? So once again, the assignment will be on this chapter, chapter 2, the environment analysis, specifically examine the table 2.1. And then you choose from each of these factors at least 2 aspects. From the learners, you may choose the age, the ability, and the aims of learning English, and the ways of the students' preference in learning. You may choose at least 2, and then identify what might be the constraint in that area, the ability, the aims, and the ways of preference, learning preference. And in the teacher factor, you may also choose 2 or at least 2. And in the situation, you may also choose 2. So at least, and then the constraint might be the same, or probably you can identify more specific constraints. These are only examples. And then you try to identify what might the effects of this constraint in the curriculum that you intend to design, and what might be the appropriate activities to deal with the constraint. Is it clear? Okay, so when this session is over, then you will, each of you will work on your own, okay? And then by the end of the day, you have to upload your work. You may, scan or photo the work on a piece of paper, or if you do on the computer, that you can upload the file, or you can scan the work and then you upload in the Google Classroom. I'll provide an assignment in the Google Classroom for today's assignment. Any comments or questions? So I assume that everyone understands what to do for the rest of this class today. So once again, when this session is over, everyone will work on his own or in her own to finish the assignment and upload the work by the end of the day. I will set up the deadline for today's assignment in the Google Classroom. Is it clear? Because the session will be over. So once again, everyone will do on his or in her own for the assignment. The assignment is based on the table 2.1, and select 2 of the factors from the learners, teachers, and situation. Identify the most probable constraint on each of the factors, and then write down what might the effect on the curriculum about the identified constraint, and then list activities that might solve the constraint. So that will be the assignment. Okay, I'll thank you all. You will work on your own for now on, and then later on today, I expect your work to be uploaded. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your assignment recording. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Don't worry, just upload, okay? Don't worry about the right or wrong assignment. Just work on that and upload it, and then I'll check your work. Okay, thank you. I'm looking forward once again to your work today. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.